Bar staff, have you ever had a man use the safe word drink escape, and how often does it happen? I managed a bar in Melbourne for a few years, mostly a mid-range spot popular for after-work drinks and weekend crowds. Most nights were fairly predictable, a few groups celebrating, some regulars nursing pints, nothing too dramatic. But one night stands out in particular because it escalated in a way that I hadn't really expected. It was a Friday evening, and the place was moderately busy. Around 10 p.m., a man and a woman walked in together. Let's call them Tom and Rachel. They were obviously on a date, but from the start, Rachel was loud, flirty, and very forward. Tom, on the other hand, seemed polite but slightly tense, constantly glancing around the room and down at his phone. As the night went on, Rachel became increasingly aggressive. She started ordering drinks for both of them at a pace that Tom clearly wasn't keeping up with. Her tone shifted, and she began making slightly abusive comments when he hesitated or disagreed about something. At first, I chalked it up to a personality clash. I've seen plenty of couples bicker, but the moment I noticed Tom's body language, I realized this wasn't just normal dating tension. He was uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. It wasn't overt, but he kept looking at the exit, whispering under his breath, and touching his phone in a way that suggested he was ready to call for help if he needed it. At some point, he leaned toward me as I passed by with a tray of drinks and muttered, "I might need a safe exit." I'd heard this sort of thing before. It's a subtle way some people signal that they're in a situation they want to get out of without causing a scene. I nodded discreetly and made a quick plan. I signaled to the other staff member on shift, and we agreed that if Tom needed to leave, we'd book a taxi for him and guide him out a side or back exit to avoid confrontation. Minutes later, the opportunity came. Rachel went to the restroom, and Tom slipped me a look that confirmed he wanted to leave. I quietly walked him over to the back door, opened it, and guided him to the taxi waiting nearby. He seemed incredibly relieved, half smiling, half panicked, and gave me a quiet thank you before getting in. I turned back inside, and Rachel returned a few minutes later. She was visibly upset, raising her voice about the bill and about Tom leaving. I calmly told her that we'd cover his half and that the situation was no longer our problem. This, of course, only made her more hysterical. She insisted on paying the full bill, practically yelling at the bartender for the injustice of it all, before finally storming out. The rest of the night went on as usual, but the incident stuck with me. There was a huge power imbalance, and it was clear that Tom had been trapped in a situation where he didn't feel he could assert himself without outside help. It was subtle, but when you work in a place long enough, you start to pick up on these cues. The safe word drink system, where someone signals that they need an exit by ordering or doing something prearranged, isn't something most patrons realize exists, but for staff who've been around a while, it's a critical part of handling uncomfortable situations safely. I've had this happen a few times over the years, but it's never common. Usually it's just one person at a table feeling outnumbered or intimidated. It can be as simple as a text to a friend or, in the bar context, quietly signaling the staff that they need an out. Most people don't talk about it, and I never share names or specifics unless it's necessary to explain the procedure. What struck me most about that night with Tom and Rachel was how quickly things escalated and how subtle the cues were. One moment it was a date with some snarky comments and playful banter. The next it was a situation that could have gone badly wrong if he hadn't had an escape plan and if I hadn't been paying attention. The power imbalance wasn't just emotional, it was physical and situational. Without a discreet exit strategy, things could have gotten ugly. After that, I made it a point to train staff more thoroughly on spotting these situations, recognizing the subtle cues, and creating safe ways for people to remove themselves. It's not a frequent occurrence, but when it does happen, it's serious. I think about that night often. Tom got out safely, Rachel eventually left, and the bar returned to its usual Friday chaos. But the memory of those subtle signals, and of guiding someone out quietly without anyone else noticing, has stayed with me. It's a reminder that sometimes being a bartender isn't just about serving drinks or handling difficult customers. Sometimes it's about noticing the small details that can prevent a potentially dangerous situation from escalating.